this narrative is about me getting into the emergency room. The nurse that I I was assigned with wasn't the most she wasn't experienced, and that caused a lot of problems too because of the punctures that I had suffered multiple times and caused bruises on my arm. And the picture, probably you could see how many punctures, the punctures that I had experienced through that, and the black and blue bruise. And being in the hospital with all the troubles that I had, hours being immobilized, and going to the bathroom with that big pole, that was a real patience abuse, that they would put the wires for things on my body and weakened me, and asking for me to stay one more day was bad. And then getting out of the hospital with the blood bleeding on the bandage was really bad, going to a grocery store. And so it was I haven't experienced that. I had to file a complaint, and I asked for, with all the trouble and what they're supposed to do to be careful, endangering life of someone else. If I had to stay one more day, I asked for 5,000. I still want them to refund my money, to acknowledge that what they did was wrong. Yeah, the Atrium Health. I was admitted in the emergency, and then I stayed one night. My my one night stay was okay, but the problem was the next day when there was a change of nurse to take care of me. So they start she started putting this IV. I have one IV, just a regular IV, and then found out that I need another IV for potassium. And then there's another, like a monitor device, like a rectangle thing that it looked like a surge protector. So put on my right arm, and then a put the EKG wires on my chest, and I felt like, I couldn't move because that tiny little bed is so narrow. I just felt like a zombie. And so, that morning, there was another issue. The box that where all the wires were connected were keep buzzing. And so I pressed the button, called the nurse again, or anyone available. They, came in to my room, just tweaked the box, and then when they left, it started buzzing up again. So, I was really tired, and the noise was irritating me. So, going to the bathroom was another issue. Do you see this pole and you could imagine all the wires hanging on it, and there was a big box where the monitoring box kept all the wires to connect with, and that kept buzzing up. And then I had to push this pole to the bathroom myself. How bad was that? So, I I felt like during those hours that I was there, I was weak. you felt like so entrapped on this bed. And, I felt like I was immobilized like this. And so after hours, my, what would you expect that the EKG monitor would record? Of course, my heart would weaken, right? Would slow down because I wasn't moving. And that's another issue. What was their motivation for that to entrap me? Couldn't move. Of course, everything would be immobilized, and it was like you're dead. So I had a pain on my. I was admitted because of the gallstones, and I was supposed to have a surgery that day. Thank God I didn't have. The doctor said there was no open space in his schedule. So I said, I'll come back sometime, come back. So I wasn't able to get the surgery. And the nurse said, the doctor asked that you need to stay one more night, one more day. I said, no. And I firmly said, no way, because once that monitor showed, the heart monitor showed that I have a difficulty breathing, then they're going to put me on ventilator. I don't know if you heard about the ventilator. They put that in your mouth to incubate, to pressurize your lungs. You know how many COVID patients were put on ventilators and died because of that ventilator? That's where it's going. And I could foresee what would happen if I had stayed one more day. The nurse was very insistent, called the doctor twice, to confirm that, to confirm with her that I wasn't staying. And my biggest complaint too, so that was very dangerous. My life was in danger for their uh, trying to get me to stay for one day. What was their motivation with all these gadgets on my body? And I couldn't move, immobilized, and so my heart wasn't functioning right. And this nurse also, when she had to give me an IV, couldn't find the vein where to put the needle. So she punctured from here, punctured here, and so my the blood was spilling through through the bandage, and spilled on the bed sheet. So she ordered a new sheet, but then where she put the last needle was still not right. So I said, when she came back to check me again, how I was doing, it was lunchtime, and so she ordered me food just to make sure that I was ready to leave if I could eat, better. And then after I ate my lunch, she said, "You didn't really eat much." Well, what do you expect? I couldn't eat in the hospital. And I said, "I need to leave." And so she left. And I was like, ready to rip those wires from my body. But I waited for her because, she stowed away or something without permission. I I thought of that, so I waited for her and talked to her. I'm leaving right now. And then, you know, I went to the parking lot. My car was there. I was still a little bit having pain in my stomach, but I didn't care. I just want to go out. I just want to run away. And then I went to this grocery store, Fresh Market. I got out of the car and halfway to the entrance of the grocery store, I saw this, bandage, bloody. And I said, no, I couldn't get into that store because they're gonna say, what was that? It's a COVID thing. And of course they're gonna shun me, you couldn't come here. And so the worst scenario I thought of, I had to go back to my car and I found sanitizer and I cleaned up my arm, my wrist. And so I was hungry, of course, but I felt better because I was out of the hospital and bought my food and went back to the car and cleaned out. When I got home, I removed the bandage and cleaned it out again. About 2 weeks, you know, I kept looking at it every day because it was black and blue. The bruise over here, I think you have a photo of that, you know. And so about I complained to the atrium. I called them up. I wrote them a letter, and somebody got back to me. And so it took days for them to investigate. And then this, her name was Linda, I believe so. So she said everything was fine in the records, and and I have to wait for another person to contact me and give their final say about it because I was asking for compensation for that, for my troubles, for my mental suffering, because I could have been dead staying in that hospital, staying for one more day, and with the thing with all the wires put in me to entrap me, immobilized, that was really bad. So the second person called me and said, we found everything in order. We followed all the protocol. And at that time, they didn't have the picture. And they said, I said, what is it? The bruise lasted for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And I said, that's normal. I said, really? And so that's when I searched the internet and look for ways how can I file a complaint with an authority. And I found PissedConsumer. So now we're doing the interview and warn, and for me to have that opportunity to tell my story, what they do in the hospital, and warn others who gonna be patients to avoid getting trapped. And, you know, being an inpatient in the hospital is very dangerous. With all the monitoring device that they're gonna put on your body, you just have no recourse but be on the bed and they continue to just monitor you until something they can find another diagnosis. So what would be my diagnosis? Weakened heart. That's number one they would look for. So they can put on that ventilator and goodbye. There's no generals on this earth anymore because that's the statistics that most patients in the hospitals or nursing homes died from. And I have to tell my story so others can foresee or have a picture what is actually going on in the hospital. They're just gonna keep uh, testing your blood at night with whoever the guy who comes in and take out your blood. That's all they can do. Or I put you in the X-ray when they can find something. Oh, you catch cold or flu, then that's another diagnosis they can find when you're in the hospital, because you're immobilized, you're not breathing fresh air, you're not exercising. So I had to tell my story to other patients, because this is the second time that I was admitted, this time an overnight. Many years ago, I was in the hospital as well for a bicycle accident. I was supposed to stay 4 days to heal that surgery on my left ankle. I ended up staying in the hospital for 14 days. And you know why? Because I had a fever. I was so tired being in the hospital because I couldn't sleep. The temperature was so high, and another patient there in the hospital was an elderly, and very there was no room in the intensive care, so she was my roommate, and the temperature was so high that I caught fever, and they wouldn't let me go. And every day I was in the X-ray room and getting X-rayed and getting tested for blood every night, or it's like how many times a day. And until I screamed to the nurse, say, "What's wrong? Please call the doctor." And that's the time the doctor came in and gave me a pill, Sudafed. In 2 days, I was out. So this is the thing in the hospital. I got to tell my narrative to people, just to give warning to them. And this practice is very common, I believe so, in healthcare facilities. And the last thing I did was to ask for a refund. A week ago, I wrote that letter. At least you can do for me, for all my troubles, is to refund my money. I paid $90 to get admitted.
Well, Jenny Rose, tell me, in your opinion, what Atrium Health could do better in this situation?
I just give me a good nurse who can take care of me and feel comfortable. And, you know, before they put on those gadgets, minimize what is only necessary for me to have. Okay, they said I need potassium, then fine with potassium IV. But what is that tracking device that it looks like a rectangle? And I asked the nurse, "What's that?" Because it was very heavy on my right arm. And she said it was a tracking device. Then, the investigator, the one that who was handling the case, said it was a blood monitor. The blood monitor is that like looking like a clip, and you put on the finger to get my blood pressure. It wasn't. It was a rectangle with the two um, cords at the end. That wasn't a blood monitor. So I don't know what it was. You know what I'm saying? This rectangular and then the two cords at both ends. And it was pretty heavy. What it was, I really didn't know, because they said that's a blood monitor, blood pressure monitor. I had seen a blood pressure monitor, and that was far fetched. It wasn't. So that's another thing. I don't know. So I said, take care of yourself, people. And if you have a problem, just call your doctor. I consulted another doctor. She said, just leave your gallbladder or you can have a surgery. I chose to just leave my gallbladder stones and I'm fine. The first, that was on May 6th when I was admitted in the hospital, 2020. Today is January 11th, 2021. I'm just careful on what I eat. And that's all. I'm fine. And I did research, a couple of people said, one of them said, yeah, I had gallbladder stones 12 years ago. I had surgery. And until now, she is having problem. Gas, uh, gassy, and very foul odor. So thank God I'm here, but I have to do my part. What can I give in return to others who need to know what you should do or have an idea what transpires in the hospital? The doctor asked me, the one I consulted with, how come you went to the hospital? I didn't know where to go. That was like, yeah, I should have gone to a private doctor and avoid getting into the hospital. That's what I concluded when this doctor asked me, why did you go to the hospital? Well, I didn't know any better and I was looking for a better doctor and I found him after the fact. So that second thing also, go to a private doctor. If it's not like, life threatening, I mean, I had time. But when I first went to the urgent doctor first, it was, I had a pain already for a couple of days. So, when you feel something is not right, just go to the doctor and don't wait when your last resort would be going to the emergency room.